What up, what up? Welcome to Recovery Rockstars Uncut. I'm your host, Kevin Z, and I have a question for you. Do you think you could swim for 20 miles in one day? Well, my guest today, Ben Tuff, has, and this dude is a rock star. Ben is almost 11 years sober, and swimming was a major part of his recovery. Ben recently left his job as a teacher to become a full-time recovery advocate with the goal of destigmatizing addiction. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and now let's get into the show.
Welcome to Recovery Rockstars Uncut, uniting the recovery community with raw and real stories. Your host, Kevin Z, puts the light on people and brands that are rocking the recovery lifestyle. So you want to be a rock superstar? RecoveryRockstars.com. Now, here's Kevin.
I'm an open book.
You're an open book and a seasoned pro, man. Ben, what's up, brother? Welcome to the Uncut Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay, dude. So I got to ask, how cold is it there right now? We're talking about weather.
Yeah. So right now it's -3 with a -23 wind chill. And it's supposed to be tonight -21 with a -50 wind chill. I've never experienced anything like that in my life.
Okay, I never like to start the podcast out with, hey, how's the weather? But dude, that is gnarly.
Yeah, I'm ready to get in some lakes and go swimming, but I think we're a ways away from that.
Well, I'm super stoked. By the way, stay warm, sit by that fire, or maybe do like a snow plunge, man. Just go out there and go for it.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
But I think that I might lose an appendage if I spend more than 5 minutes out there.
Jesus. All right, man. Well, I always like to start the podcast off on a positive note. What's the best thing that happened to you this week?
Best thing is starting my new adventure of not having a typical job, but just going out there, putting all my eggs in the basket and trying to change some lives.
I was going to end with that, but let's start with that. Tell us more.
So I've been a teacher for the last 20 years, and the whole time I've wanted to make a difference in kids' lives. And I love students. I love students who are always there. They're very present. They're very impressionable. And over the years, as I went through struggles and as I got sober, I started to think, maybe it's time that I make a difference elsewhere, and inspire not only students and kids, but adults to make the necessary changes in their lives, to have a sober life, to conquer that addiction in a positive way while starting unbelievable things at the same time.
I absolutely love it. And you've got some big balls to go out there and just, quit, but you set the intention and good things are going to follow.
That's what it's all about. And, we've moved into our new house that we've been building for the last year or so. And I've got 2 kids and a wife who are very supportive. And I'm hoping it's just going to kind of blow up. And I want to just get out there and I want to affect as many people in my positivity and my embracing of and destigmatization of addiction, because that was my fear. I think growing up, a lot of the reason why I didn't ask for help earlier in retrospect is because of how I thought people might view me. And my biggest worry wasn't getting sober or giving up alcohol. It was, what are people going to think of me?
Tell me, you've been sober for, is it over 10 years now?
Yeah, so it'll be 11 years at the end of April. And
what were you struggling with?
So, my poison was alcohol. And, I started drinking casually, like on the weekends when my junior year of high school, but it wasn't too crazy. It wasn't like going on benders. It's just like your average high schooler and all the way through college. And then I started to self-medicate a little bit. And whenever I felt like I was like in the doldrums, like as low can be, I would drink over it. And then whenever I was on cloud nine and as happy as can be, I would drink over it then too. So I was great at making excuses. And eventually those excuses became very much individualized to me. In other words, it was no longer looking for parties or looking for gatherings as an excuse to drink. It was, how can I hide this? And how can I keep this towards myself?
Interesting. So when did you know that you had a problem?
That's such an interesting question, because I remember so vividly. I went to the liquor store one time and I was running errands and I had everything figured out. And I would get cash back when I went and got groceries. And then I had a little secret place in my wallet where I put the $20. And then nobody can see what I'm spending money on, right? So I would have the $20 behind. I always had a 20 spare just in case. And then I'd go to the liquor store and I'd buy a pint of vodka and I'd buy 2 things of vitamin water. And I would drink the vitamin waters down to the label, and then I'd fill it up. It was the perfect thing. And then I'd get rid of the bottle of vodka. I'd bring it back, and it just was vitamin water, right? And in a way, I kind of convinced myself it was just vitamin water. And there was one time, I'd only been doing this. At first, it was like getting extra beers and like chugging a beer on the way back, or chugging beers in the basement that were kind of stashed down there. And then it was no longer effective. I had to kind of up my game. And I remember I was at the liquor store one day and I looked in the rearview mirror and I said, "You have a problem." And, I didn't know if I wanted to cry. I didn't know whether I wanted to, ask for help. But I didn't. And that was about 3 years before I got sober. So there's definitely a innate feeling that pervades, I think, all of us, that, and I often tell people this. I have 3 sponsees right now, and when they first kind of came to me, they're like, "Yeah, I might have a problem, I might not, like, I'm not sure." And I said, it doesn't matter. Like, regardless, if you think it's getting in the way of your life, then it's a problem. You don't have to be this raging alcoholic who's passing out all the time, throwing up all over themselves to make alcohol or any kind of drug a bad thing in your life. But as soon as it gets in the way of your who you are, what you want to do, your aspirations, your inspirations, then it's a problem.
How did you finally get sober?
Oh, so I was really bad at the end. There was no alcohol in the house, and I was still doing my same thing. I was hiding it, and my wife didn't really know what was going. We had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old at home, so it was already chaotic. I was stressed out about that, stressed out about teaching, about the job. And I was having these anxiety attacks, which obviously the alcohol contributes to, now I know, to a great degree of increased anxiety, especially the next day as you're kind of hungover. But a true symptom of being hungover is a higher rate of anxiety. So I was like through the roof. And so I had an anxiety attack at like 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. And I was like, I need to go to the hospital. I need to get fixed. I don't know what's wrong with me. And the funny thing is that, like, I never thought that, oh, maybe it has to do with the fact that you're drinking, 12 drinks every night or 16 drinks every night. Maybe that has something to do with it. So I ended up going to the hospital, and my wife had called my general practitioner and said, "Ben's going to the hospital. I have no idea what's going on. What the hell do we do?" And he called ahead and ordered blood tests. And so we get to like the waiting room. They put us in like that little cubicle at the ER with the curtains all around it. I feel awful and hungover and gross and depressed, and I'm crying. And the nurse comes in and looks at me and looks at my wife, and I said, "Can I just get the kind of shot of Ativan? Can I just get on? Can I get over this anxiety?" And she said, "Well, we can't admit you yet." And I was like, "Well, why not?" She was like, "Well, your blood alcohol is 0.17 over the legal limit."
Wow.
And this was from the night before. So my wife kind of looks at me and I'm like the game is up. I don't know. I don't have anything to say. And I said, Gretchen, call Alex. Let's go to rehab. I want to go right now. I want to go right now. I want help. Like, and people ask me now, like, did you want to get caught? I think I did. Otherwise, it wasn't good. Wouldn't have been so brazen about it. I just, sometimes it's hard to make decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to prevent. Is I want to plant the seeds in individuals' heads, so that they know it's okay to ask for help for themselves, for their friends, or for a loved one or a relative, because otherwise it's just you're so close to it, and that addiction is just going to fester and grow and grow and grow. And I'm very fortunate in that I got the help that I need. I went away to Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan, Connecticut. I still have the same psychiatrist today, 11 years later. And the amount of growth I made there as a person, to, work on my stress levels, my anxiety, my therapeutic approach to life, it really was a rebirth of sorts.
And you were at the point when you had that anxiety attack, you're at the hospital, you're kind of exposed based on your blood alcohol level. You were just ready to surrender. You were done.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think if someone had come up to me a week before or a month before and said, "Ben, I know what you've been doing. I saw you. Like, what are you going to do?" Okay, I give up. I was so close. But sometimes, or for me, I needed an excuse. I needed a kick in the butt to say, this is the only choice.
Because that was a significant kick in the ass. Let's go. Let's go, Ben.
And as I talk to families, I said there has to be consequences. And I knew my consequences was I would lose the three things that I treasured most in my life: my wife, my son, and my daughter. If I continued to do what I did, then I would lose all of them. It would be all over. And so it wasn't really much of a choice. It was just like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
I'm curious, when you were teaching, were you drinking during the week?
Oh, during the week? Heck yeah. I mean,
oh my God, you would go to school over and teach kids?
Oh, yeah.
That sounds fucking miserable, dude.
It was awful.
Oh my God.
And it was it's a culture of boarding school life, at least for the younger faculty. Like, you go out hard. I mean, there were some nights that we were up until like 3 a.m. playing card games.
Wow.
And then getting up and barely functioning the next day. But yeah, it was pretty awful to put oneself through it. It was funny. Someone was saying to me the other day, like, how bad their hangover was. And I was like, that's so odd, because this is the first time that I don't really remember what it was like. Like, the only thing I can think of what it was like is like when you get like the flu or COVID. But otherwise, I don't really remember what it was like to be super hungover anymore.
Yeah, that's great. So I know you've already dropped a lot of nuggets of wisdom, but for somebody who is struggling, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
I think it's not advice, but it's more of the idea that it's so difficult for it was, okay, I'll speak from experience. It was so difficult for me to look forward to a life without alcohol, because so much of my life revolved around alcohol, having fun, social settings, getting together with friends. Everything was around this one thing. And to be without that, and to not have the privilege to drink around all those people, I'm just going to be an outsider, right? But then I realized after I got sober, being an outsider is awesome because you do whatever you want. And in the end, people are inspired by it instead of like poo-pooing it, saying like, oh, you don't drink? The only people who are threatened by non-drinkers are people who have problems that I found.
Right.
And I found that my friend group got a lot smaller, but the relationships with my friends who remain friends got a lot stronger. And as my dad used to say, when we used to be in high school, and I'd be like I have this core group of guys that I like to hang out with, and that's it. And he was like, it's quality over quantity, Ben. Quality over quantity.
Love that. And I love that you said you like being the outsider, because I think, I look at so many different friendship groups, and it's kind of centered around drinking. Hey, come on over. Let's get a cocktail. Hey, let's go to happy hour. Hey, let's go to dinner and have a couple of bottles of wine. Hey, come on over. We'll have some cocktails in the backyard. So it's good that you actually said that. But like you said, quality over quantity, and people do, at the end of the day, respect the decision you've made.
Right. And I think that the other piece that I would say is that for me, the awkwardness only lasted a very short while. It was lots of firsts. My first wedding without alcohol, my first concert without alcohol, my first Halloween without alcohol, my first New Year's without alcohol, my first Christmas without alcohol. It's like, because you start to realize that all your own personal traditions and ideas surround this big thing. And I know that for my friends who are in recovery and have addictions to other substances, it's a very similar experience. And trying to adjust, it's never going to be easy, and it's important never to let your guard down, but it does get easier with time. And it gets a lot easier when you surround yourself with people that understand and respect you and the decisions that you've made, and are going to make it easier for that adjustment, right? So I remember I was 3 months out of rehab, and I was 2 months out of rehab, and I was supposed to go to my best friend's wedding. And I said, nope, not going. I can't go. I'm not ready for this. I'm too new. It's just not a good idea. And I didn't go, and that was a smart thing to do, I think. It's about kind of, it's so individualized, and it's all about you.
And I'm sure he respected that decision.
100%.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to pivot just a little bit because I want to talk about this. In your recovery journey, you picked up a little hobby called swimming.
Yeah.
Dude, tell me about how you got involved with swimming and what you're doing now, because you're inspiring and people are about to find out why right now.
Oh, thank you. So I got involved in swimming through the sport of triathlon. And my first sponsor, who I met at Silver Hill, I was 3 days in. I heard him talk, and he talked about how triathlon, after being 2 years sober, was a big part of keeping him healthy and making wise decisions. And so I went up to him after that, and I said, will you be my sponsor, one? And two, do you think that I could swim? Can I learn how to swim? I've never swum before. He was like, yeah, the swimming is the easy part. So I started competing in triathlons and did that for about 6 or 7 years. And I was good. I was, above average. And at the same time, I found myself like getting so ultra competitive. And when I was going to these triathlons, I'd be like scoping everybody out, and I'd be like, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to beat you. And that's not what it should be about. It should be a little bit more, at least for me. I wanted it to be something fun. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to pivot away from triathlon and I'm going to learn how to swim long distances because that's what's hardest for me. And that's going to keep me occupied. I could run like crazy. I could bike like crazy. But swimming was really rough. And so I said, I'll first do this swim called Save the Bay in Newport, which was from Newport, Rhode Island to Jamestown, which was about 2 miles. And I did it, and I did it for like 3 years in a row. And I was like, that's awesome, but I'm ready to step it up. So then I went online. I was like, I want to go somewhere cool. And I found a Key West race. So it's a race around Key West, which was 12 and a half miles. And I did that.
Dude,
I was like,
so crazy.
I was like, that's awesome. Like, I could do that. Like, granted, I spent a lot of time in the pool and the lake and in the ocean. And then I did a swim around Jamestown, Rhode Island, which was 21 miles. And then I was the first person to swim from Block Island to Jamestown, which was 19 miles in some of the most sharky waters in New England. And then this past summer, I swam all of Narragansett Bay and became the first person to swim from Providence, Rhode Island, all the way south to Jamestown. And for me, it's about like these goals and these kind of stepping it up every time. It pushes me as a person, and it also creates accountability for me because it's like, you're going to get your ass in the pool for 3 hours today because you got to do this workout. And I need that. I need routine. I need accountability. And I also like to make a difference. I don't like to do these because, I want to be on the news and have documentaries made about me. I like to do it because I like to bring attention to the idea of why I swim. And also I love to raise money for the nonprofit Clean Ocean Access, which is the environmental group that I'm involved with, that makes swimming in the ocean possible in Rhode Island.
First of all, so much respect. I love that. Second of all, oh my God, that sounds miserable, dude. 20 miles swimming. Oh, you gotta just be jacked, right? Shredded.
Not really.
Come on, man. I'd be shredded.
So my twin brother Chris, who has kind of inspired me to become a speaker and do all this crazy things. He sent me a picture of me playing like beer die before I got sober, and I'm like disgusting. Like I'm emaciated, and I was like, that is not me. There's no way that's me. And I was like, holy cow, I was 165 pounds then, and now I'm about 210, and I'm not like big dude. It's just because I Peloton twice a week and I swim every other day that I'm not Peloton, and that's what kind of keeps me going.
And then they're doing a documentary, right? Swim Tuff?
Yeah. So Matt Corliss, who's an awesome guy, we started this about a year ago, and so he has been making a documentary. We've just finished shooting down in Atlanta, and it's called Swim Tuff: How I Swam My Way Out of a Bottle. And I'll be pitching it at different festivals in the spring and summer. And Matt worked on The Social Dilemma, Free Solo, a lot of documentaries. So he's pretty well known in the world, and he gets me, and he gets my message. I remember when I first met him, and he said, "Ben, what do you want this movie to be about?" And I was like, "Matt, like I'm the most boring person ever. Like I don't really know." He said, "If you keep that mentality, then we'll be good."
That's hilarious. Well, that's exciting. I can't wait till it comes out and check it out. So as you're moving forward in your new role as a recovery advocate, how can we help you? How can we support you?
My goal right now is to get into as many schools as possible. And so this starting like next week, I'll hopefully hit up some of the local schools here in Vermont, and then I'll be heading down to Atlanta, and then some of the private schools. So I really want to spread my message to students because that's where the seeds are.
100%. Yep.
And I said in my kind of cover letter to the various schools that I'm talking to, I'm like, I remember getting scared out of my wits by these people talking about sobriety. And it shouldn't be something about being scared of. It should be something that you learn to be more in tune with,
right,
and have a better understanding with, and more than anything, find those people to go to when you need help.
Yeah.
Or if you don't need help, then the people around you need help.
Absolutely love that. And you're so right. It's like you need to get in with these students to have these conversations to create their awareness. And like you said, destigmatize at the end of the day. So how, if people want to connect with you, how can they find you?
So I'm on my website is swimtuff.com. And then my direct email is bentuff@gmail.com. Reach out. I'm happy to help with anything.
And then Swim Tuff, it's TUFF, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So you can watch the documentary trailer on swimtuff.com or on YouTube.
Right on. Well, Ben, man, I have so much admiration and respect for you. I know you're going to change a lot of lives. I mean, to just quit your job, to fuel your passions and follow your heart. It's admirable, man. Much respect.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Looking forward to it.
All right. And I appreciate you being on this podcast, my brother.
Thank you.
Thanks for being in recovery, rock stars. I guess today's episode is done. In all seriousness, though, Kevin appreciates you being part of this community. RecoveryRockstars.com. Want to email us? Kevin@RecoveryRockstars.com. Facebook, Recovery Rockstars. Instagram us @RecoveryRockstars. Kevin's wardrobe brought to you by Kevin. Kevin's transportation brought to you by Kevin. Kevin's cable bill paid by Kevin so he can keep this podcast going. Goodbye.